The company was also linked to a China-based chemical supplier run by Zhong's mother, Xiaoli Liu.
Investigators allege a shell corporation laundered money from a foreign terrorist organization.
Agents say that the properties were purchased with money from an international money laundering scheme tied to the Sinaloa cartel in Mexico.
Federal agents have executed one of the largest money laundering raids in modern cartel Chinese alliance history, uncovering a $2.2 million haul Chinese-Mexican cartel money laundering network operating out of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. The joint FBI and Sheriff's Office operation, codenamed Project Dragontide, exposed a global criminal pipeline linking China's Sichuan Sundia Chemical Coterie and the Sinaloa Cartel, two of the most powerful transnational entities in the world. Investigators say the network was designed to wash drug money through American real estate, hiding cartel profits inside 5 luxury homes across the parks at Carolina Forest, one of the state's most exclusive gated communities. According to federal affidavits, these multi-million-dollar properties were purchased outright with methamphetamine and fentanyl proceeds, disguised as legitimate investment funds from a Chinese chemical export company. This was not street-level drug laundering, an FBI financial crimes agent stated. This was corporate-level washing for one of the most violent cartels on Earth. The operation began after a suspicious activity report filed by a regional bank flagged multiple large wire transfers coming from overseas accounts in Shenzhen, China, to a small Myrtle Beach holding company named New Star Holding LLC. Over several months, financial analysts discovered that New Star had no active clients, no contracts, and no genuine revenue streams, only a steady flow of deposits and property purchases. The company's listed address, an office at 2411 North Oak Street, was little more than a room with fake desks, fake staff lists, and disconnected phone lines. A forensic audit confirmed that New Star was a front company, created solely to launder Chinese and Mexican drug profits under the guise of chemical trade income. Federal prosecutors allege that the firm's parent company, Sundia Chemical, exported chemical precursors to Mexico for methamphetamine production, then rerouted the proceeds through Myrtle Beach real estate investments to legitimize the profits. The key figures, identified as general manager of Sundia Chemical and her children, allegedly purchased the 5 Carolina Forest homes through New Star Holding LLC between late 2023 and mid-2025. Court filings show that Liu oversaw multi-million-dollar shipments of pseudoephedrine precursors to a Mexico-based importer called Nort Pacif, which was directly linked to the Sinaloa cartel's synthetic drug division. The FBI asserts that the same funds from these chemical sales were funneled through Hong Kong and Singapore accounts before being wired into South Carolina. They were turning meth chemicals into mortgages, one agent said. It's clean on paper, dirty in reality. Each of the seized homes, equipped with imported luxury furnishings, smart security systems, and offshore financing records, now stands as evidence in what investigators call a hybrid cartel state enterprise. Federal investigators say the New Star Holding LLC office in Myrtle Beach looked legitimate at first glance. Clean signage, modern furniture, and a professional website describing the company as a global supplier of industrial chemical raw materials. But once agents entered the premises, the illusion collapsed. The desks were staged, the phones disconnected, and every employee listed in business filings turned out to be fake. No invoices, client contracts, or shipping manifests existed. It was an empty shell with a business card, one agent said. The so-called staff photos on the company's site were AI-generated stock images. Even the listed business phone number looped through a Chinese VoIP relay designed to mask its origin. Despite the appearance of normalcy, the building served one purpose: to launder drug money under the protection of a chemical trade license. Bank records show that in under 2 years, New Star cycled more than $9 million in international wire transfers, all disguised as payments for research supplies or pharmaceutical raw materials. The chemical trail behind the case revealed how Sundia Chemical, headquartered in Chengdu, Sichuan province, acted as both exporter and financial architect for the operation between November 2023 and May 2025. The company shipped 116 consignments of methamphetamine precursors to a Mexico-based importer called Nort Pacif, which federal analysts later confirmed was a Sinaloa cartel intermediary. Each shipment was declared as laboratory solvent or cleaning compound, avoiding detection through trade loopholes that allow unregulated chemicals to move freely across borders. In May 2025, the DEA intercepted one of these shipments at the US-Mexico border. 50,400 kilograms of precursor material, enough to produce hundreds of millions of dollars in methamphetamine. It was the largest non-controlled chemical seizure in DEA history. Agents determined that while the chemicals themselves were legal, Sundia executives knowingly sold them to cartel-linked companies that had no legitimate manufacturing capacity. They were feeding the cartel's assembly line, a DEA chemist said. Every barrel of solvent was worth its weight in narcotics once it hit Mexican soil. Following the DEA's border interception, the Chinese government quietly issued an internal warning to Sundia officials to suspend exports pending review. Within weeks, 3 of the Myrtle Beach homes tied to New Star Holding were listed for sale under different realty companies, a move prosecutors now describe as a panic liquidation. The listings were withdrawn almost immediately after U.S. Treasury officials began tracing suspicious real estate transfers tied to Chinese nationals. According to the FBI's Financial Crimes Division, the attempt to sell the homes was part of an organized effort to recycle laundered cash into secondary shell entities in Singapore and Macau. Treasury intelligence analysts traced at least $2.8 million in unaccounted assets to those offshore accounts, linking them to the same electronic payment networks used by known triad money brokers. This was more than drug money, one official said. This was a corporate alliance between a state-backed chemical supplier and a cartel with global reach. By mid-2025, the FBI and the Department of Justice had enough evidence to seize all 5 properties under Title 18 U.S. Code 981, civil forfeiture for property derived from international drug trafficking. The investigation now extends to multiple jurisdictions, including Hong Kong, Mexico City, and Shanghai, as agents work to map the full scope of Sundia's financial channels. Officials confirmed that the chemical conglomerate has long been on a U.S. Treasury watch list for exporting dual-use materials, and that this case provides the first direct financial tie between a Chinese corporate entity and a Mexican cartel's money laundering front on U.S. soil. According to court filings, the laundering process operated through a complex network of offshore accounts, shell subsidiaries, and academic cover identities designed to disguise criminal proceeds as legitimate business and educational investments. The FBI discovered that Xiaolai Lu funneled profits from chemical sales through Hong Kong-based intermediaries into a series of U.S. shell firms registered as research subsidiaries. Her children acted as nominal executives for these entities, purchasing real estate and vehicles under their names while living as students in the United States. One home was registered as a university research housing facility, even though no research occurred there. The funds were wired through multi-stage laundering, moving from China to Singapore to the Cayman Islands to South Carolina, then finally into builder escrow accounts for new home purchases. FBI analysts called it a new generation cartel wash cycle: clean, corporate, and global. The same loop was used to channel narcotics profits from Mexico, merging the 2 financial streams inside Sundia's overseas holdings to make tracing impossible. This wasn't random, one agent said. This was a strategic partnership between a cartel and a corporation, both profiting from the same poison. In an official statement, FBI Deputy Director Michael Duane described the Myrtle Beach case as the new face of narco finance. Boardrooms, not back alleys. He said the investigation shows that modern drug empires depend as much on accountants and export managers as on smugglers and dealers. You can arrest a trafficker, Duane said, but if you don't dismantle the bank that launders his money, the operation survives. The FBI confirmed that this case is now part of Project Hydra, a multi-agency initiative targeting transnational criminal finance networks connected to China's chemical exporters, and Mexico's cartel infrastructure agents from the DEA, Homeland Security Investigations, and the U.S. Treasury's OFAC office are collaborating to trace additional real estate holdings tied to Sundia Chemical's U.S. footprint, which may exceed $25 million nationwide. Officials say several properties in Texas and California are already under review for similar laundering patterns. This is not an isolated event, a senior Treasury analyst noted. This is a model, one being replicated by multiple Chinese suppliers now embedded in cartel logistics. The FBI also confirmed ongoing coordination with Interpol, Beijing and Mexico's National Intelligence Center to identify intermediaries who facilitated the chemical shipments. "We're tracking the money, not the myth," Duane said. "That's how you kill a cartel." Federal prosecutors now describe the case as a landmark victory against hybrid cartel-state collaboration, demonstrating how legitimate global commerce can be weaponized for narcotics financing. The Department of Justice emphasized that this seizure is not only about real estate, but about disrupting the financial foundation that allows cartels to survive. Each of the 5 seized properties, valued at $2.2 million collectively, has been placed under civil forfeiture proceedings in U.S. District Court, with title transfers frozen and liens applied. Treasury officials are working to repatriate linked assets in Hong Kong and Singapore. "When you hit a cartel's labs, they rebuild," said one federal prosecutor. "When you hit their money, they collapse." As the homes sit empty behind sealed doors, agents continue tracing digital banking fingerprints to offshore accounts still active in Asia. The broader message from Washington is unmistakable. Cartel money will find no sanctuary in American soil. "This case is the blueprint for how we fight back," said one DOJ official. "No guns, no raids on jungles, just financial warfare. Because when we cut off their funding, their empire falls."